Well, thank you everyone so much for joining us today, and thank you for joining the Green Campus Challenge. My name is Madeline Smith, and I'm the Program Manager for MIT Denmark. I'm sure many of you have already seen my name on the platform or in your email inbox, and I'm really looking forward to the event starting now so I get to hear more from all of you in the coming days. We have an exciting schedule of speakers for you today, but I want to kick it off with my colleague Virginie Morlaix, who works at the Confederation of Danish Industry. Virginie?
Thank you, Madeline. Well, on behalf of the Confederation of Danish Industry, or DI, I would like to wish you a warm welcome to the Green Campus Innovation Challenge. DI is a private interest group. We represent about 18,000 companies in Denmark within a wide variety of sectors. Our companies are not only known for having a strong focus on sustainability, but they've also been praised for being some of the most innovative in the world. And I like to think that it is because they rely on a long tradition, on a long Danish tradition for collaboration between civil society, private and public sectors, academia, and entrepreneurs. In other words, we are strong believers in collaborative innovation. It's the very reason why we initiated a dialogue with MIT 3 years ago. We wanted to build a bridge between MIT and Danish companies in order to inspire each other and collaborate together. And I'm so happy to see that this bridge stands stronger than ever today, despite the pandemic. And I'm happy to see that you will cross that bridge together with us in the coming days. So let's work together. It's exciting. We need solutions to global and complex challenges, and we need to put all capabilities, all perspectives together in order to find solutions. And I know even if it's fashionable to advocate for international and interdisciplinary work, you will probably agree with me. It's easier said than done. So collaborative innovation is a challenge itself. It demands courage. It demands that we open up for other people, involve others. And I'm quite sure that at some point it will get frustrating. But we are here to help. We gathered a fantastic team of mentors to inspire you and to help you through the process. I really encourage you to reach out to mentors, to students, and of course, to Madeline and I. We are happy to help. So have fun, and I hope you will enjoy the program as much as we enjoyed creating it. Thank you, and see you soon.
Thank you very much, Virginie. We have an amazing collaboration between MIT and the Confederation of Danish Industry, and we are so grateful for their support of the MIT Denmark program. And that leads us now to the event. So the goal of the coming week has many parts. First, we want you to be innovative. We want you to create an idea that relies on your unique experience and worldview. Innovation is a key part of what we do at MIT, and we found a very valuable alignment with Denmark, which continues to be one of the top most innovative countries in the world. Second, we want you to be collaborative. We want you to collaborate across different cultures. Being part of MIT International Science and Technology Initiatives, the MISTI program, our mission inspires us to create those valuable connections across cultures and create solutions to make our campuses come together. We come up with even better ideas when we work together. And the final goal, of course, is sustainability. We want to create solutions to make our campuses more sustainable. And while the pandemic means it's challenging to do that, the very nature of this event being virtual is already a step towards sustainability. Just think about all the carbon we're saving from the atmosphere by not flying around the world to do this together. And on that note, I will pass it over to someone who can speak more on that sustainability goal, Brian Goldberg. Brian Goldberg is the Assistant Director of the MIT Office of Sustainability. He has spent 2 decades tackling sustainability challenges throughout the world. Since coming to MIT in 2016, Brian's role to help MIT leverage its students, faculty, staff, and campus as a test bed for modeling solutions to sustainability challenges. He is leading campus-wide collaborations to systematically design out waste from MIT and grow a campus that is resilient to disruptions from current and intensifying climate risks. Brian?
Thanks, Madeline, and it's wonderful to be here with all of you. What an incredible program, and it's a sustainable program because you're going now a few years and you're doing it remotely, and that's wonderful. It shows the strength and the commitment. I think the goals of both the challenge, the program, and MIT's Office of Sustainability are aligned. This is about collaborating with our partners across institutions. Madeline, I have a few slides. Are you able to project them from your screen?
Yes, I'll do that now.
Great. So I think the goals of the challenge are exciting, and collaboration is key. The next slide, please, Madeline. So at MIT, the key question we're asking, which I think is effectively the question this challenge is asking, we're asking it at a campus scale, is how can MIT be a game-changing force for campus sustainability? But it's actions like this in collaboration with others that attempt to achieve game-changing efforts to advance sustainability. We can't do it alone. At MIT, our commitment is how do we leverage the campus as a test bed to tackle these global challenges? And our aim is to develop scalable, repeatable solutions that others in other campuses can use and take on and carry forth. Madeline, if you can go to the next slide, this gets to really the scales of impact that here we are in a challenge right now with folks from all over the world. And as everybody is sitting in their own campuses, thinking about their own campus, we're all facing the same challenges. So the same challenges you on your campus are seeing are the same challenges MIT is seeing. And so how do we take challenges that we each tackle on our own campuses? How do we share them through venues such as this? Because the more that we can share, it enables us to leapfrog. So by seeing our work not as solving a challenge for our own campus, but that we are solving a global challenge such as climate change or materials and waste, but we are downscaling that global challenge to the campus, developing and testing solutions, and then sharing those solutions back with our city and global partners, we as a global community are able to learn from each other and leapfrog to solutions. Let's not reinvent the wheel. Next slide, Madeline. So how do we actually do this? Well, on campus, again, we think of our campus as the test bed, as the lab. And as an Office of Sustainability, we sit right in the middle of these two Venn circles here. So we convene at the table our research scientists and our architects and engineers who are thinking about the physical campus. And we ask the architects and engineers, if we're talking about climate resiliency, architects and engineers, what do you need to understand about future flood risks on campus? And those architects and engineers at the table are sharing, well, boy, if we had a model that could help us understand the probability and depth of flood risks, that could help us better design to adapt to flood risks. And therefore, our research scientists are sitting at the same table saying, we can help with that model. Tell me more. And that engagement process between the planners and engineers with our research scientists creates a back and forth feedback loop. So our research community is able to develop research and models that can then be tested on campus by the planners in terms of modeling future flood risk and informing design standards and architecture standards. And then the planners on campus bring the feedback to the researchers to say, well, boy, that model is missing some key standards that we could benefit from. Can you tweak the model? So it's this engagement that helps us advance a collective model of how to solve for these challenges. Next slide, Madeline. these are the 5 major areas of impact that MIT is focused on addressing around sustainability broadly. And we find it helpful to think of these areas of impact. Perhaps they may be a little less traditional than folks are used to seeing. The one on the bottom is thriving networks, because it's an area of impact. It is engagements just like this challenge that get us sharing with each other, collaborating together, because we're all learning. So how can we then bring what we learn in our networks to then tackle the other areas, such as advancing a society of healthy people, tackling low carbon campus, etc. So it's these 5 areas of impact that enable us to leapfrog and develop and test solutions. Next slide, Madeline. This is one example of one of the outcomes of our work is we are as MIT, we are a data-driven institution. Facts matter, and science and the scientific process matters. In order to advance sustainability decisions that are grounded in science, they need to be driven by data. We have worked really hard over the last few years to develop a data platform. We call it the Sustainability Data Pool. We invite people to dive into this pool. This data pool is available and open source for the MIT community because some of the data is a bit sensitive. And so we invite the community to engage in energy data, waste data, circulation and bicycle access data. And the community can both use the data sets that we've helped to pull together working with many partners. We've put the analytics out there. We also put some of the raw data. So we invite students and researchers, grab into the raw, cleaned data, bring it into your research, and then spit back your solutions and your ideas and your analytics. And by creating this data pool that's really been really hard to do, it's now giving us all an ability to make data-driven decisions. Next slide. Another example is our climate resiliency work. This is how we're leveraging the campus as a test bed for tackling climate resiliency. Is how, as MIT, we're facing flood risks and heat risks from a variety of different kinds of events. How do we design and grow our buildings, our 170 buildings that we already have, and how do we modify these and adapt them to make a campus that can sustain these risks over time? This has involved working closely with our city partners. We're a campus of 20,000. We're also in a city of about 100,000. So how do we partner with the city of Cambridge? Because we're both tackling the same challenge of flood risk. We have a campus and city boundary, but we're sitting at the same table, sharing data, and actually developing a shared flood risk model that we're now using together. So it's been a wonderful example of collaboration and leapfrogging. Next slide. This final example it's one that's close to my heart, and it's probably close to a lot of yours, is waste. I think waste is one of those entry points into sustainability for so many people. They say, oh my goodness, this food is in the trash. How do we get the food out of the trash and capture it separately? In fact, how do we design the waste out of the system to begin with? And it's this challenge of systematically designing out waste in partnership with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation and many others on campus. How do we design out waste? And we're taking a circular perspective from the point of purchase all the way through reuse of material, and then through what we do dispose of. How do we bring that material back and regenerate natural systems? It's a very complicated approach. It's taking a systems view. It's requiring lots of collaboration, but it connects. Waste connects with people because everybody generates waste and everybody makes purchasing decisions. So it's an area that is a high engagement area. We're excited to be tackling this challenge, and we have so much to learn, especially from so many of you and the challenges that you're going to be tackling, because I imagine waste will be some of those challenges. So I think with that, Madeline, the next slide, I just invite you to, on the one hand, learn more about what we're doing, and on the other hand, we look forward to learning more about what you all are doing. We'll be mentors as part of this process, and we really welcome the collaboration and the ideas. So thank you for the time. And it's now my honor to hand over to our next special guest, Stuart Dwyer. Boy, it's exciting to have some diplomatic representation here. Stuart is the charge d'affaires of the U.S. Embassy in Copenhagen. In addition, he oversees the State Department's Regional Science and Technology Hub. It's one of 12 in the world. It's focused on promoting cooperation between the Nordics and Baltics and the U.S. on environment, science, technology, and health issues. Previously, Stuart served as the Minister Counselor for Economic Affairs at the U.S. Embassy in Ottawa, Canada. He was also Deputy Mission of the U.S. Embassy in Dublin, Ireland. Stuart is a career member of the Senior Foreign Service from the United States and is originally from Maine. So welcome, Stuart, and look forward to hearing your perspectives.
Great, thanks a lot, Brian, and it's really great to be with all of you today, and hear about firsthand about this remarkable partnership between MIT and DI. And I think it really encapsulates the strength of the U.S.-Danish partnership, which ultimately rests on this foundation of people-to-people connections, connections that really help us to address global challenges. So thanks for all of you being here. And I know we would have preferred to have done this in person, but as was mentioned earlier, we do have the advantage of being able to have students from Boston and Odense and Aarhus and Copenhagen all come together virtually. So great to be with you. I know over the next 7 days, you're going to be taking on the challenge of creating sustainability solutions for university campuses. And Brian, I really liked your presentation, which I think really gives a sense of how university campuses can be test beds for some of the technologies and approaches that are going to help us address globally the challenges that we're all facing. And even Denmark, with its ambitious and forward-leaning climate goals, admits that there is a technology gap that has to be filled to reach some of the ambitious goals that we've set out. In case you missed it, we do have a new president who was sworn in yesterday. Joe Biden was sworn in as the 46th president. And the new administration is still developing its policies and approaches, but they very quickly have set us on a path to rejoin the Paris Climate Accord and are very much committed to transforming the U.S. economy towards a greener future. And President Biden has spoken of the need in the United States to achieve a 100% clean energy economy and net zero emissions no later than 2050. These are bold objectives, and we are going to be counting on people like you, the engineers and scientists in the future, to help us figure this out. And I think this administration is also going to be leaning heavily on partnerships in order to address these challenges. It's something that we're going to have to do together. I think the good news is that U.S. and Denmark were building on a very robust foundation. We are very fortunate to be working with this innovative economy here in Denmark. And you see a lot of Danish companies from Vestas to Ørsted and others with large investments in the United States. And we look forward to growing out some of the other partnerships that we have. The University of Copenhagen and Microsoft has some fascinating work going on quantum computing and a whole host of other initiatives. So whatever this mission can do to encourage these efforts, we are going to do that. You mentioned our science hub here, and I will say that hub is under the auspices of the U.S. mission here. My colleague who is just off screen here, Brett Makins, heads that particular initiative. So I look forward to having you continue to work with Brett on cooperative efforts. And I'll just say in closing that again, having the opportunity to be able to build these sorts of partnerships focused on these kinds of challenges is a critical part of our broader U.S.-Danish relationship. I wish everybody the best of luck in this challenge. And I look forward to hearing about some of the solutions that you develop over the course of the week. I think that we all expect great things. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dwyer, for those inspiring words and for your support as well. We look forward to continuing to work together as well. So with that, we'll move on to our next speaker. Miha Bobik is the Vice President of Business Development and Product Portfolio at Danfoss. Miha started as an engineer at Danfoss in 1996, and in the year 2004 became Director of R&D for Mechanical Controls. In 2010, he was promoted to Senior Director of R&D for Electronic and Mechanical Controllers, Heat Exchangers, and District Heating Substations. In 2017, he took over Business Development, and in 2019 became Vice President of Business Development and Product Portfolio, being responsible for P&L of 4 business units. He remains in that position through today. Miha is an active member of standardization bodies, Slovenian National Innovation Committee, Chamber of Commerce, and lectures on some engineering schools. Since 1996, he has also published several articles from field of engineering, electronics, management of innovation, economics, and human resources. Welcome, Miha. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for the word. I'm really honored to be here and present you something about Danfoss. So I will also take a presentation and show you some slides. So Danfoss is actually a private-owned Danish company with headquarters on a small island south of Denmark. We are actually a company of 9 billion euro in size, and there are 36,000 colleagues besides me in this company. We are dealing mostly in 4 fields. So we are working on mobile hydraulics, so on the off-highway construction devices. Then we are in cooling, where we actually produce all the possible equipment which enables refrigeration, air conditioning, and so on. We are also dealing in heating, and I'll actually deep dive on the heating part because I'm actually coming from that part. And we are also second biggest producer of variable speed drives in the world. In heating part, we are actually dealing with the residential heating. That means we are taking care for indoor climate, being either radiators heating or floor heating or whatever. We are second biggest producer of heat exchangers in the world, and then we are very, very active in district energy in buildings, where we are focusing on building district energy, district cooling systems on non-residential buildings, how to optimize the residential and non-residential part of the building stock. And why we are actually dealing with this, if you look at the major global megatrends, 30% of the food is wasted, and Danfoss with the refrigeration can actually help to mitigate this waste and bring the food from the producer to the consumer intact. What we are dealing in heating is mostly we are concerned about the global climate change, but then at the same time there is speeding up urbanization, especially in Asia. I would say in China, like one more Europe will go to the cities in next 10 years, which is a lot of people. But then what are also 2 big trends is, of course, digitalization. So we are actually more and more entering digital world, but at the same time we are also facing electrification in every corner. And electrification, especially in heating business, means that we are coupling the sector of electricity production, the transport, and the heating. And that actually is giving us major opportunities, especially in how we deal the urban heating and cooling challenge today. So if we look at the Paris Agreement, and happy to hear that US will actually join back to this agreement, we can actually see that there are very nice wishes and trends. However, we didn't do that well in reality as the world. So instead of actually going down, we increased the emissions a little bit. And if we want to keep our globe just warming up for 2 degrees, there is a massive amount of CO2 we need to reduce. If you want to go 1.5 degree, this gap is even deeper, much deeper. And who is the major sinner in this? They're actually buildings. It's the environment where we live is spending roughly 30% of the energy. If we add the construction industry, which is actually building our homes, we get to 36. What is even worse is that building lot is actually responsible for almost 40% of the emissions, So there is really something to be done in this field. And therefore, actually, HVAC 4.0 starts here. It's the digital buildings who would really make a huge difference in our future development of the cities and emissions. There are whole nations, for instance, here is an example of Germany, where 80 people million decided that by 2030, they would actually cut the emissions for 55%. And they cannot do it differently than going deep, much, much deeper into sector coupling, into the energy efficiency, and into district energy as the heat deployment between the buildings. So how long do we have time? Do we have time to 2030, 40, 50? Not really, not really. And this is why the systems of this distribution of energy are really changing. We are going from single source to multi-sourcing. This multi-sourcing is based on renewables, on surplus energy. We are dropping the temperature so we can actually gain more from the sources. We are looking into bidirectional options where certain building is for certain time consuming energy, but then it's also producing it. There are many, many regulatory trends which are positive in the world, and also the customer structure is also changing very much. There are very big companies which are also investing into the new infrastructure, and therefore actually having much better share and distribution of the energy. So district energy industry is in fact quite old. It's started 100 years ago, in fact in USA, and it was a steam system, and then gradually went to from steam to hot water, to colder water, to ultra low temperature district heating, as we know today, and most of these systems are actually built in Denmark. So the new fourth generation district energy systems are actually enabling us to utilize maximum amount of waste heat, renewable energies, and it's actually very, very resilient towards all the changes either in the supply and also in the demand. So as Danfoss, how we actually see the future of HVAC is that digitalization is the answer. We need to understand how smart and efficient buildings are working, what is the load, how is their dependency on the usage of the building, on the weather conditions. And then when we know this, we can actually translate this into the optimal distribution of energy, where we, by understanding the pressure and temperature fields around the city, around the campus, around the energy distribution unit, we can redirect the energy where it's needed, pull it back when it's not needed, and then that gives us the third and the last part of this equation, and that's energy management of the energy sources, where basically we can intelligently manage which source will actually be there, which source will produce heat, which source will produce electricity, how much will be bidirectional engagement, and so on. And then we can actually get optimal picture for the whole campus or the whole city. So that was all from Danfoss, and with this we also believe that we engineer tomorrow in a heating area. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Miha, for your presentation and for joining us. If you're interested in speaking with Miha more, he will be joining as a mentor, and I would encourage all of you to schedule a time to speak to him later on in the event. So next up, we have Ofri Aaron. Ofri is an architect, PhD in social sustainability in residential areas at Rambøll. She is an experienced architect and city planner in social sustainability and urban environments. She is experienced in executing urban planning projects in the initial stages, working on visionary principles, idea and strategy development sketching, volume studies, feasibility studies, and handling of involvement processes and project management. Ofri is particularly interested in how physical frames and human behavior are linked, how the physical environment can help improve everyday life in the neighborhood, increase security, support neighborhood, local identity, and the relationship between private and public space. Her focus is on the well-being of the users, which from experience shows can lift the quality of the project and the project owner's satisfaction. She places great emphasis on the relationship between natural movement in the city for pedestrians, cyclists, and motorists, and varied destinations where you can stay, meet in public space, and participate in communities. Thank you, Offred, for joining us. Welcome.
Thank you very much. And I would also like to share my slides. It's working, right?
Yes.
Yes. I'm going to talk about the social impact a little bit different than the other ones. But first, I will start that I come from Rambøll. Rambøll is a very big consultancy company with engineers and architects. Lately, we merged with Henning Larsen, which is a very big Danish architecture office, and now we have we have both architects and engineers, and we collaborate a lot. And what some of the talkers talked before about innovation and how different professions can bring to innovation, we work with it actually daily based, and it's super interesting. A little bit about myself that is down here in the picture. I'm an architect and I have a PhD in social sustainability, and I work lots with housing in the city. And the way that I work is often to ask questions and analyze how do we live and where do we and how do we want to live in the city. Of course, your challenge is not about housing, but I think the same approach can be used here, questioning and rethinking. Yes. Oh, sorry. There are lots of challenges that we can work with and have to improve, and some of them already, the others already talked about before. And I would like to talk about the design with social impact, and to give you some ideas of how do we work and how I could recommend you to work with your idea. And the first question that we often ask is, to whom do we design it? To whom do we want to make a change? And the answer here is, of course, not one person, it's a community. So design to a community, and how do we create a community? How do we create identity and with the physical things that we do, but also with social? How do we involve the community in the design and in the development? This is an art installation of kids that made these masks in Denmark. And also to think, with whom do we make it, and what kind of partnership will be logic to work here, to have here, for to have the best results. So it's a part of the involvement. The next thing is, where are we going to develop or have the project? What is the site? And I think an interesting way to look at your ideas is think it could be a leftover space, for example, where other things cannot be realized there. I think it's interesting also to look at multi-program, and this is, for example, urban space on top of the roof. So how do we bring more program to the dense area or to the dense campus? And think about transformation. How do we use the existing buildings in another way? How do we add more programs so buildings are used 24/7? And then also think about the temporary, what can be there for a short period of time. And this can also help to develop things that are relevant for right now. For example, this is a COVID cafe in Copenhagen that you can't go inside the cafe, so they just sell it outside. So it's like this temporary solution that can quite quickly follow the trends and the behavior. And then maybe some of you can ask, but this social approach, is it actually, are we talking about sustainability? And of course there is a social sustainability, and I think it is, And it's very, very important to talk about materials and technology and recycle and upcycle and the circular principles. But what I tried to bring here and to help you with in your idea is to think about the people, because I think that you can build as sustainable and as environment friendly as you can. But if people don't like it and don't use it, then it's the biggest waste that we build. So I think it's super important to build for the people and to create these places where people like being. So this is my input for today, and I'm really looking forward to hear your ideas and to be a part of this collaboration.
Thank you so much, Afri. We'll be hearing more from her later on throughout the challenge and also as a mentor. So thank you, Afri, for joining us. And now for our last speaker, it's my pleasure to introduce Guillaume Charny-Brunet, who is a founding member of SPACE10 and director of strategy there. He is a French national who spent 12 years helping large organizations innovate at the crossroad of sustainability, business, and technology. Today, together with the rest of SPACE10, he is on a mission to create a better everyday life for people and the planet. Welcome, Guillaume.
Thank you very much. I will also share my screen. I have a few slides I've prepared. Been asked to introduce you to SPACE10 and tell you a bit more about who we are and how we work. Do you see that? Yeah, it should be good. All right. So SPACE10 is a research and design lab on a mission to create a better everyday life for people and the planet. We are a bit more than 5 years old. Our headquarters are in Copenhagen, but we also have a satellite office in New Delhi, which we had for 6 months, had to close a bit prematurely because of the health crisis. But we've popped in different places and cities for the past 5 years, including Nairobi, New York, London, Shanghai, where we spend a lot of time engaging with the community, sharing ideas and building collaborations. About SPACE10, one of the unusual characteristic of SPACE10, I would say, is the relationship that we have with IKEA, which is exclusive. IKEA basically bought the exclusivity of our work and focus on serving their business vision of creating a better everyday life for the many people, but outside the realm of what would come intuitively for them. So we basically act as an innovation lab for IKEA. We believe that the future is not a destination, it is a direction, to quote Ed Catmull from Pixar. And here's the thing about the future, it is a bit frustrating because you can never catch it, right? So the only thing you can do is to decide for yourself in what direction you want to keep working. And in our case, we've spent a lot of time focusing on creating solutions that are designed not only for the good of people, but also for the good of planet. Our starting point is to look at and study technological shifts, environmental shifts, and societal shifts, a lot of which have been mentioned or presented earlier by other speakers today. But our focus is about everyday life, and God knows that we live in a world that is not short of challenges. So to create a better everyday life for the many people, we argued, and IKEA was very receptive to it, that we could do a lot more than home furnishing. And this is what we're set up to do. In short, we research and we design, and we research in order to unveil new opportunities to create this better everyday life. We do this with a lot of partners, and the idea here is to make our research as actionable as possible. We publish, share those research. We are not a secret lab, or very little things are secrets at SPACE10. And we try to keep those research as insightful as they are playful. Insightful because we do need to learn and look into those many different subjects. We publish on our website We publish books, one of them called The Ideal City that's coming out in a couple of weeks with a kickoff event on the 3rd. Magazines, articles, collaborations are always ongoing and enable us to actually get those research with partners all around the world. So we make sure that whatever we learn has roots in a context that is understood. We also want those research to be as playful as possible. It is not because something's complex as climate change, energy, urbanization, that it should be for the specialists only. By making those research playful, we spend also time engaging people within those ideas. We've done things around energy, for example, with Solarville, with little wooden houses that are actually equipped with real solar panels, mini ones. Underneath those wooden houses is hardware that we open source that allows us to actually run the distribution of self-made energy through the community using blockchain technology. We're looking at the future of autonomous mobility. We're talking about open source design and digital fabrication with a project we released this summer called Be Home, for example, that allows anyone to design their own beehive, actually, and press a button to download a file that can be made on a CNC machine very easily. So many different aspects, but those common threads of playful and insightful. We use those actionable research to then design solutions for people and for planet. And what we do is we don't hesitate to go sometimes far away from the core business of IKEA. What we focus on is to inspire change for people and for IKEA, but also enable people to access those new services and products. Enabling, for example, I chose to talk a little bit about one of the project that relates the most to IKEA core business and is the most technological. That has to do with spatial computing, the release of different apps, including IKEA Place or Studio, which is a collaboration with Apple that we released last year with the launch of their new iPad Pro. But basically using augmented reality, spatial computing, and machine learning to understand people's space, their budget, their style, use computer vision to digest this understanding into a recommendation that would be more personal and free for people. So everyone can use technology to optimize the design of their own space. We also work on different other subjects this year, more specifically around the project called Solar Essential, where the idea here is to focus on emerging markets and to cope with the lack of sustained access to energy sometimes, looking into developing a series of affordable products and services that would be powered by the sun, something that it has not really done for the moment, that we do particularly in collaboration with the Home Smart division that is responsible for connected solutions and IoT development. But we also worked extensively last year on the urban village concept, published a lot of research on the ideas of shared living, community living, shared services, and this architectural concept that is actually relies on the idea of modular building and use of sustainable material, in particular wood, to reduce the use of concrete, but also to inspire IKEA to look at their amazing supply chain when it comes to wood and their existing processing power to make a case for them to potentially enter the construction industry using a supply chain that already exists. We also worked around food, and in particular vertical farming, growing our own food using our own waste, building our own aquaponics system in our basement, gathering tons of data, developing some services that have led to many things, including minority investment of IKEA into the one of the biggest vertical farm in the world, Aero Farms, a commitment for them to start producing locally using hydroponics. Some of the food they sell in their restaurant, and therefore enabling them to control the production, make the cycle between production and consumption as short as possible. but using technology that enables them to reduce the amount of water or space that is needed to grow the food that we eat. In short, the way we do all of this at SPACE10 is that we act as an interface between IKEA and a large network of different specialists, small studios, not your usual big consulting usual suspects, but a lot of talent that is scattered and that we unite on a platform that allow us to activate partnerships into projects. We also believe that if you are the smartest person in the room, you are in the wrong room. So we do spend a lot of time creating spaces and moments for talents to interact, share, ideate, and build things. We do this through different tools, including our program and our residencies. Our program is about inviting people to share our research, but also to interact with us, with different experts, so we can at the same time learn, but also get feedback on the desirability of solutions at early stage. We have launched a residency program a few years ago, including with MIT and Harvard and Strelska and other universities around the world, where we invite students to build their own project within themes that are close to the one we're looking for. Unfortunately, last year, due to the health crisis, we couldn't bring residents as we normally do to our headquarters in Copenhagen or New Delhi, but we did all of this online and explored in particular the mental health challenges that are linked to the global pandemic. The next session of residencies is actually open around water consumption and sustainable practices. In short, we do believe that the path to big systemic change is through collective action. And hopefully, all together, what we're looking to do is to build a better home for ourselves in the wider sense of the word. That is it for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Guillaume, and thank you to all of our amazing speakers during this event for their inspiring words. You'll have more chances to meet many of those speakers next week as mentors during the challenge. Before we wrap up, I just want to give a few updates and reminders to everyone here. First, I encourage all students to share an idea or reach out to someone today on the platform. Now that we're officially launched, it's time to start creating your team and starting your innovation process. Check the schedule on the platform to see what's coming up, and stay tuned to the announcements for more news on the many amazing things coming up in the days ahead. I also want to quickly thank a few of our partners and sponsors. We're so incredibly fortunate to have so many amazing people joining together to make this event possible. I want to say thank you to Danfoss, who you can meet with as a mentor next week, or join in for a fireside chat on Monday. I want to thank SPACE10, one of our green heroes, Rambøll. I want to also thank the MIT Office of Sustainability and the Graduate Student Subcommittee on Sustainability, GSC Sustain. And it's also our pleasure to be working with the MIT Design for America Club, who you can look forward to joining together with for an ideation event, as well as social events throughout next week. To make things easier for you on what we have coming up next today, my colleague Amelia will share some of the links with you in the chat for what's coming up after this. Right after this at 11 Boston time or 5 o'clock in Denmark, we'll have the world's best news quiz, which is a chance to get to know each other for a little bit and also learn something new at the same time. Following that at 11:15 Boston time, and 5:15 Danish time, we'll have our first opportunity to meet with potential teammates. That'll be a networking event for those interested in the energy track. The two other tracks will have their networking events on Friday, and you're more than welcome to attend all three events if you would like to do so. Finally, you don't want to miss the food waste and cooking workshop with Too Good To Go, which is one of our green heroes and a very innovative startup from Denmark that's now expanding to Boston for their advice on how to reduce food waste and maybe some creative new recipes as well. And with that, I'll just say good luck to all of you participating, and we can't wait to see what solutions you design for a greener campus for all of us. I hope you enjoy the rest of the challenge, and thank you so much for joining today.
Thank you, and see you in a minute for the icebreaker activity.
Thank you, everyone. Enjoy.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, hi.